What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite patterns, and that is the proxy pattern. So, guys, a proxy could actually be thought of as, I'm gonna use a real world analogy. So, let's say you're trying to get in contact with the CEO, like if you ever could, like, you know, it's pretty easy. Anyways, you're trying to get in contact with the CEO. Let's just say that you can do it and you want to set up an appointment. Well, we all know that the CEO is a very busy guy. He's a very busy woman, and he or she may not have time for you, right? Well, this is why they always have a what are those called again? They're like helpers, but a receptionist. It's not a receptionist. You know what I'm talking about. But you always go to them to actually set up an appointment to get in touch with the CEO. Well, you can actually think of them, whoever them is. I forget what they're called. Assistant. You could actually get in contact with their system, so that way you could actually so they could queue up appointments, you know, prevent unnecessary appointments, and they even keep track of who met with the CEO. You could think of them as a proxy. There you go. Assistant. Jesus. So, guys, before I go on, I do have to tell you that I've already done a video and something happened and it wiped it out on my hard drive. So I'm redoing it. So all the code has already been done. I'm sorry about that, but I will explain what's going on. So we're going to be creating a proxy for this system. I mean, for this code that we have right here. Because right now, this code, if we run it, I'll tell you what happens in a bit. If we're running, it's actually reading. Did I save it? Okay, yeah. It's reading the markdown file and also reading the text version of the file. All right. We want to prevent this file from reading any text extension. Whatever file has the extension .txt, we want to, or anything. We only want this to read .md. So we're using the module fs, and this is the built-in module Node already has. And we're going to be creating a proxy to actually do this. All right. So instead of requiring fs, which we are in a way, we're going to be creating a proxy. So I'm going to say fs proxy requires, and we're going to create a class inside of the file fs proxy. And we're going to be using this, and we're going to be passing in, we're going to create a new instance, and we're going to be passing in the actual file system module, all right? And that's going to be assigned to the fs variable. But this is what's important right here. I'm actually assigning this actual method or this module inside of this proxy, all right? So let's see what's happening inside the fs proxy file. So in this file, we're creating a fs proxy class. So for our constructor, this is very important, guys, because in our constructor over here, we're actually passing in the actual fs module. Okay, so we're just setting this.fs to the fs subject, which is the fs module. Now, obviously, guys, this is very similar to the adapter pattern, where you have to have the same interface as the client. So, obviously, right now we only have read file, so our interface would just have a method of read file. But in the real world, I'm pretty sure you'll have all the methods that the fs module contains. You know, such as you have read file, append file, write file. I mean, you got a lot of them, all right, guys? So make sure you look at the client file, which is the index.js for us. Make sure you look at the client file and see what methods they use, and then just create methods for those inside of the proxy class. So since we're only using the read file, I only created the read file method. And in this method, so right here, this first block, we're checking if the path, because the read file actually takes 3 arguments: the text file, the one you want to read, the content type, and then the result of that file. Okay, or the format. That's what I meant. The format, not content type. Right here, the format. Anyways, so the read file, we pass those arguments in, and for the path, if the path doesn't have .md for the extension, then we're going to throw out an error saying that, hey, we can only read, I meant to change this, the markdown files. And if it does, then we're going to read that file using this.fs because this.fs obviously contains the actual module. We're going to read it, and this goes on. If there's an error, we're going to throw an error. If we actually get content back, then we're going to just give it the content. All right. This shouldn't be new, guys, if you use FS modules, but this is not the point of teaching you using the FS module. It's a proxy. So in here, we could actually go right now and then run it, and we're going to get that let me do it again. Anyways, that. The only reason we get that is because we have an error right here. All right. Obviously, result, we threw out an error because we're trying down here. We're trying to read a text file, which we're not able to. So we return this can only read markdown file, which you see right here, can only read markdown files. And the reason why you hear the it's because it's because the count log right here. This is the ASCII character for the default sound, the error sound that your computer makes. Obviously, Windows is going to make that sound. So, just a cool little thing that to add, I guess. But, anyways, yeah. So if we actually remove this file now, remove it. Save it, and then run it one more time. You actually get not an error, but you actually get the actual file that we want to read, which is the README markdown, which is great. You don't have an error no more. It actually runs out. So guys, that is the proxy class. We're gonna move on to the cons and pros, or pros and cons, and then to when would you want to use this or where. So guys, for the pros and cons, the pros and cons are pretty much straightforward, and it doesn't really need explanation whatsoever. So I'm just go straightforward. If you need help with any of this, just leave a comment down below, and I'll be more than gladly to help you guys. When I do have time, because I am pretty busy. So sorry about that if I don't get to you pretty rapid. But anyways, the pros: you can control the service object without clients knowing about it. You can manage the lifecycle of the service object when clients don't care about it. The proxy works even if the service object isn't ready or is not available. You can introduce new proxies without changing the service or client. For the cons, the code may become more complicated since you need to add more classes to the, you need to add more classes. This pattern introduces another layer of abstraction, which sometimes may be an issue if the real subject code is accessed by some of the clients directly, and some of them might access the proxy classes. This might cause disparate behavior. Now, if you need help with this, guys, I think this is pretty much straightforward. Not too sure. That's why you need to leave a comment. Let me know. Let me know what's going on in your head, so that way I can help you out. But moving on to the when should we use it? All right. Now the whens. We have tons of ways to do this. We have dozens of ways, all right? But I'm going to go over the ones that I use most often, okay? But first one, lazy initialization. This is called the virtual proxy. This is when you have a heavyweight service object that wastes systems resources by always being up. So this resource is always being up, all right? It's always running. Even if you don't need it, it's always running. Well, instead of creating the object when the app launches, you can delay the object's initialization to a time when it's really needed. That's called lazy initialization. The local execution of a remote service, which is called a remote proxy. Now, this is when the service object is located on a remote server. In this case, the proxy passes a client request over the network, handling all of that nasty details of working with the network. I mean, yeah, you're probably going to use this one. Now, the caching request results. It is called the caching proxy, obviously. This is when you need to cache results of a client request and manage the lifecycle of this cache, especially if results are quite large. The proxy can implement caching for recurring requests that always yield the same results. The proxy may use the parameters of requests as the cache keys. So that's pretty convenient. And lastly but not least is the controlling access to the original object. Now, we did this, and I'm gonna just say that it's useful when objects should have different access rights, like we did right here. I showed you how to do this one. This one, I'm pretty sure you're gonna be using these four anyways. These four that I just told you: lazy initialization, the virtual proxy, the remote proxy, caching proxy, and the protection proxy. Those are the most common ones that you're going to be using. Now, for the rest of them, these are ones that I've used sometimes, but don't really have a good concept of how to do this because I don't use them as much. You have the firewall proxy, the synchronization proxy, smart reference proxy, and counting proxy. These are the ones that I know of, guys. I'm pretty sure there are a ton out there more. But like I said, I would recommend you to look at the first four and actually study those, because those are the ones you're going to be using more than often, unless you're like a systems engineer that needs to do a firewall proxy and a smart reference proxy and synchronization proxy. I don't need to do that, but you might need to. But looking into the proxies, because the proxy pattern is probably the most used out of all the patterns in the Gang of 4. But that is it, guys, for this video. Once again, guys, I do want to thank you for taking time out of your day to actually looking at these videos, giving me support. I really do appreciate it, guys. And subscribe if you haven't. Like this video if you learned something. Dislike it if you just hate this video. And comment down below, where would you use the proxy pattern. And thanks, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.